We are glad you've joined us to hear this message from Center of Hope Victory Church. We have a vision to release the spirit of revival and to raise up and equip Holy Spirit-led believers to do the work of the ministry. We hope you enjoy the following message.
Pastor Tina already did the first line of my sermon today, which was, what does it say on our bookmark? What does it say on our bookmark? No, how does it say? We are house of worship, and a house of worship, house of prayer, house of miracles. And I was going to go through those and try and figure out what they all mean. And I figured out there's not nearly enough time to do all that. I started doing that. Okay, we got bogged down on the first one. Actually, we almost got bogged down on before we got to the first one. Now, I say God hides from us. To me, God hides in the Hebrew letters. I mean, I can look at a word now and I think God's hiding in that word somewhere. And it's a little like first word in our bookmark. We are a house. Yep, we're a house. Nothing exciting about that, is there? It's a building, we're a house. But God's hiding in the word house. Believe it or not, he does. There is the Hebrew word house. I've got to make sure Because Hebrew goes backwards, I always have to think which way I'm going when I turn it around. Bet. Bet, Yud, Tav. The letter bet, now that's a word for house, is bet, which is the letter bet. It doesn't change. And the word bet, the letter bet means house. That's not very confusing, is it? It means house. It also means what's within the house. It's family. That can also mean family as a house, a household. So it's a family. And Yud can mean an authority. It's actually a hand. In the Hebrew picture, it's a hand. It's an authority. So it's a family that has authority. Tav is a covenant. The promises of God. So the house is a family with the authority of God's covenant. That's what we are. We're not just a house. We're a family with the authority of God's covenant. We can call on God's covenant. We have the authority to call on his covenant. Not as each one of us does, but as a household. As a house, as a building, we have that authority to call on his covenants to do things. That's what a house is. It's not just a building. It's that family with the authority. And recently, I've been trying to figure these out for a long time, but also with the numbers. I've just started getting the numbers, and this one really fascinated me. Bet is was 2. Yeah, bet is 2. I typed it wrong. But it means completeness. Yud is 10, means completion or perfection. Tav means divine order. I mean, everything about bet points to an authority, God's divine order. We are a family with everything that God has is ours. We're complete in God. We have perfection. We're divine order. Everything is there in this house. So we don't have to worry about, can we do this or can't we do this? We are a house. We have the authority to do it all as a family. Now the word worship. I was going to do worship, miracles, and prayer, but like I said, wasn't nearly enough time for that. I got so bogged down in worship that we didn't get too far. Anyway, there's the word for worship. Shin, Chet, Hey. And as a word, it means to lay prostrate. It doesn't mean to kneel and raise your hands. The word itself means to lay prostrate. Face down on the floor, stretched out. That's what the word itself means. And it does. But when you look at the letters, you find God hiding in each of the letters. Now the first is shakah. The first time, anybody guess where the first time that word shows? The first place that word shows up in the Bible. I used to say it was with Abraham taking Isaac up on the mountain, but it's not. That's the second place. When I looked it up, it's actually come before there. You want to make a guess? It's not used as worship. It's used as bow down, because it's often translated bow down. It's Genesis 18:2. Note, and he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood behind him. When he saw them, he ran to meet them in the front door and bowed himself to the ground. Why did he bow himself to the ground? Because they realized who those people were. They weren't just people. They were God's. Now, depending on how you want to read it, it could be God incarnate in one of them, Jesus incarnate, it could be any number of things, but he realized these were not ordinary people. These are people who deserved worship and praise and honor. That's why he bowed down. Before we can worship God, we have to realize who he is. We can't, I'm not going to bow down to somebody who, I guess I'll bow down to him, I don't know. But no, once we have to realize who God is, and when we realize who he is, our first instinct should be bow down. I mean, I'm just blown away sometimes when I think about who God is and what he's done. Like I've seen pictures, they say, 30,000 light years away, there's this thing, and God is bigger than that. I mean, that just boggles my mind that God is bigger than the universe, and the universe is bigger than my brain can handle. I mean, he's just so big. When we realize who he is, we can bow down before him. But until we realize who he is, we're not going to bow down. He realized they deserve worship. Now, there's 2 other words. I got to get this right. Again, this is why I get fascinated by Hebrew. 2 words, shin chet. So there's the word for worship. There's kind of their root word. That means to be sunk, be downcast, or humble. And if they put a dot under the shin, it means to have communion, meditation, or thought. So again, that idea of realizing God is getting close to him, being downcast, humble, being prostrate, communion, meditation, and thought, realizing communing with him because we know who he is and what he is. And again, because I'm not understanding all of it, but I have to go by what I'm told sometimes. It can be pronounced shin, shaka, or saka. If they put a dot under it, it's got a different pronunciation. Same letters, and that means to swim. Figure that one out. Swim. But really, what are we doing in the presence of God? We're swimming in his presence. We're surrounded by him, inundated. We're covered with the water. Like when you're swimming, you're inundated in the water. You're covered by the water. When we're worshiping him, we are surrounded by him. We're swimming in him. I mean, think about that for a minute. Swimming, being surrounded by God. Not swimming with him. Swimming in him. I mean, that just, how can God allow somebody like me, maybe you're wondering the same thing. How can God allow somebody like me to swim in him? But he does. He invites us to swim in him when we worship him. It's not just a matter of, us giving to him. He's inviting me to swim in him. So it's a two-way street. I want to be with him when I worship, but when I worship, he wants to be with me. He comes to meet me as well as me going to meet him. It can also mean to be pressed against something, like a wall or an inner room. And the word hey, or the letter hey, is often thought of as the breath of God. When Abram was changed to Abraham, it was an H that was put into his name, making him closer to God. Sarai was called Sarah. A hey was put into her name. The presence of God became there. God's breath became part of them. Now, because some of these words are very similar, I got to make sure I keep this straight in my mind. Okay, so when we're worshiping, we're pressed against an inner room by the breath of God. Sheen can also have the idea of being destructive. That letter is actually teeth. Pressing down on something. Well, that's kind of destructive. But when you're being pressed, you can be pressed into something. But idea of being destructive. We're emotionally destroyed. We can be emotionally destroyed in worship. Isaiah 6:5. Then I said, woe is to me, for I am undone. I'm a man of unclean lips. I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. My eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Isaiah saw the King, and he was undone. He was destroyed. He was brought to silence. It wasn't a bad thing. So the idea of destroying and chewing up doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. When you're destroyed in the eyes of God, it's like the old guy is gone. My things are gone. All that's left is what God wants me to be. And sometimes that's a hard thing, to let God say, I'm going to destroy you and get you where I want you to be. How many like the way they are? Most of us, well, maybe not everybody, most people seem to like the way they are sometimes. That's why we do the things we do. But if God wants to destroy those things in us that he doesn't want, and bring us to a point where we can be with him and swim in his presence and be totally with him, yeah. Yeah. Now, just to show you the difference. Same letters, different order, different word. Like I said, in Hebrew, the letters mean something. It's not just like in English, cat, C-A-T. The C doesn't mean anything. The A doesn't mean anything. They didn't mean absolutely nothing. In Hebrew, every letter means something. This word is, I'm not going to try and pronounce it, kashah. Chet, Sheen, Hey. The word itself means to be silent and still. So it's related to worship. Being silent and still is related to worship. That doesn't mean we can't make a noise. It just means the idea of being silent and still before God. When he's in front of me, it's kind of that, like I've got no breath to say anything. He's in front of me. Like, if you see, when I was a kid, teenage, how would I have been? I was in public school. I must have been 11 or 12 years old. When we're that age, we're in awe of different people. How many remember Eddie Shack? I went to the hockey game. I got to touch Eddie Shack. Oh, it was just an awe-inspiring moment. Now, but to me, as a teenager, that was important. But now, to stand in front of God is one of those moments like I get just, the jaw drops. Like, what do I do now? God, I just don't know what to do now. I'm standing in your presence. I've got no words. Like Isaiah said, I'm undone. There's just nothing I can do. So when we're in worship, inside of us, not necessarily our words, but inside of us is a stillness, a silence, and a peace. Like we can be dancing around and be silent and still and have peace inside. We can be shouting and have peace inside. We can be sitting doing nothing and having peace and silence inside. I often say in the summertime, I love to go outside and walk at night and look up at the sky, and again, just my jaw drops. I'm in still silence and peace. When I was a kid, the idea of infinity going on used to scare me. Like, there's got to be a wall out there somewhere. The end. But it must be on the wall. There's got to be another wall somewhere? Like, it scared me, but now I look up there and think, my goodness, God is bigger than that. God fills that. Not only he fills it. When I look at the stars, all that is inside of God. He fills it all. Now, technically, let me finish the sentence here. Technically, worship has nothing to do with music. Nowhere is it we told worship and music in the same, I think once in the Bible it's mentioned the same place. That doesn't mean you can't sing and worship. It just means worship does not mean you have to be singing. Now, for most people, that's the easiest way to do it, and that's wonderful. Some people, worship is dance. It doesn't mean we have to sing. Lifting your hands is good, yes. It doesn't mean you have to. Worship just means getting in that close place with God. Now the letter, again, go back to the letter Sheen here for a second. Again, I just read this one. This is something new I've just read. The Sheen is almost a picture of a man, his head and his two hands facing up. That was one of the Jewish interpretations of it. It's a man lifting his hands up. So Sheen is representing a man. When you put your hands up, their interpretation is you are reaching for God. When I'm worshiping, I'm reaching for God. I mean, he's already here. He's around me. But the idea of I'm reaching for him, my idea is I got to get closer to him. I want him to be near me all the time. Which one am I on here? Chet, the first letter, can mean joining of man to God or surrounded by him, like a fence, surrounded by waters when swimming. Just the idea of all this goes together, that when we're worshiping God, we're fenced in with him. I know one time I heard it, worshiping God is like being in a pit. You're in a deep pit. What can you see? Nothing but God. You know, I'm standing around here if I want to worship. Like it's worship with your eyes. Worship, oh, gee, nice day out there today. Worship, oh, gee, look at those nice flowers. Oh, nice balloons. We can get distracted. But if we're in a pit where we can't see anything else but God, it's so easy to worship because that's all you can see. And we have to find that way of getting ourselves to the point where that is all we can see. Hey, I guess to be was that breath of God. When worshiping God, we can feel his breath on us. I mean, think about that. God took Abraham, like Abram's name being changed to Abraham wasn't just, let's change his name. There was a purpose for it. When God breathes on somebody, there's a purpose for it. It's not just God saying, I think I'll breathe on you today. He's got a purpose for breathing on us. His breath can heal. It can bring knowledge to us. It can do all sorts of things for us. His breath is what gives us life. What did God, first thing God did with his breath? He breathed into Adam, and Adam became a living soul. I mean, God breathes on us for a purpose. When we worship him, he breathes on us. I mean, there are so many things I think about what God does for me, and I'm thinking, it makes no sense. Why would he breathe on me? Like, I know. But, you look at yourself sometimes and think, why did God pick me to do this? Why did God allow me to do this? Why does God save me? I heard it once said, preacher was preaching, somebody asked the question, why do bad things happen to good people? And he said, you're asking the wrong question. Come back tomorrow and ask the right question. And the question he wanted wasn't, why do bad things happen to good people? The question was, why does God not kill me in the middle of the night? Like, I'm not worthy. Like, in God, yes, I am worthy. But in me, the things that I've done don't make me worthy. Why does God put up with me? Because he loves me. He breathes on me. When I worship him, I get to that place where he can breathe on me. I'm closed in with him. I can feel his presence. And I realize in him, I am worthy. In me, I'm not. I don't have to put your hands up for this. How many have ever done things wrong? How many are going to do more things wrong? Yeah. But God looks past all that. He says, I want you to worship me. When you do, I will breathe on you. I will come to you close yourself in. We can swim in His presence. There's so many things that we can do. Worship can be anything that joins us to the completeness of God in the presence of His Spirit. God has a passion for us. We share with our passion with Him. He loves me. I want to love Him back. You know, when people get married, it's not like, I love you. I don't care if you love me or not, but I love you. That doesn't make any sense. I love God. He loves me. It's reciprocal. When we worship, in a way we're being in complete perfection of God's divine order. When I'm worshiping Him, I'm exactly where He wants me to be. I'm in His divine order when I am worshiping God. Now the question then is, in the Bible, where does it say we are to worship God? I know we can worship Him anywhere. Physically, I can worship Him in my seat. I can worship Him driving the car. I can worship Him anywhere, doing anything. I can worship Him. But in the Bible, I found there's two places, specific places we're told to worship Him. I found it interesting. Psalm 99, exalt the Lord your God and worship at His footstool. And Psalm 132, we will go into His tabernacles, we will worship at His footstool. God has a footstool? Again, this is where I find God hides in the Hebrew alphabet. I mean, I can see a footstool, and the word to use there means a footstool. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It means a footstool. There's the word, footstool. I got it written down how to pronounce it? No, I didn't. Good. I don't have to worry. Oh, yeah. Oh, we're backwards, yeah. I'm getting confused. I'm looking at the last one. That's not a hey. It's hey dalet mem. Hadam. His footstool. So his footstool is hey, means to reveal. Dalet is a door. Mem can be waters or life. His footstool is revealing the door to life. That's where his footstool is. At his footstool, he is revealing the door to life. When we worship him, he is revealing the door to life. Same letters. I said, this is where I'm being very careful because the letters are so confusing sometimes. Same letters. No, it's not quite same letters, is it? Yes, it is, because the final mem changes its shape. Don't ask me why. I know. This is dalet, mem, hey. And it means resemble. To resemble. When we are worshiping at his footstool, we are resembling him. I mean, God, to me, God hides in all of these. He is saying, when you're at my footstool, I am resembling him, coming into resembling him. Not that when I'm there, I'm exactly the same as God, but when I'm there, I'm learning how to resemble him. I mean, what a wonderful thought that I can learn how to resemble God. And how do I do it? By worshiping him. By worshiping him, I can learn to resemble him. Okay, a few more letters. I don't want to overdo you with these letters, but I just find them so fascinating. I don't know. Dalet mem, which is the word for blood, or the doorway to life. When I'm worshiping at his footstool, I'm experiencing the doorway to life in him. I mean, to me, they all hook together. Every single thing about worship seems to be getting closer to God, being like him, wanting to be like him, seeing what he wants for us. And the last one, thank goodness for some of you, last one. Yeah, mem dalet. Again, these are all letters that were from that original word I showed you. This word means armor. What's armor got to do with anything? When we're worshiping him, what's that one? Is it in Ephesians? Is that maybe somebody? Put on the whole armor of God. When we are worshiping him, we are putting on, when we're at his footstool worshiping him, we are putting on armor. How many of you need armor some days? How many of you need armor every day? Hmm? Mem and dollar be life is the door, water is the door. Yeah. Yeah. Glad you interrupted me. I was saying yesterday we needed armor. We won't go into that. Okay, why are we to worship God? Because he's God. He's holy. I don't need a reason to worship God, like today's a good day, I'm going to worship God. I don't need that. Today's a bad day, I got to worship God. I don't need that either. I need to worship God because he's holy. That's it. God is God. I need to worship him. Yeah. We don't have to sing, but we can sing to worship God. There's nothing wrong with it. I won't say nothing wrong with it. It's right to sing and worship God. It's right to dance and worship God. It's right to sit and do nothing and worship God. Sometimes it's that idea of swimming in his presence. Different people do it different ways. Jen can dance away and be lost in the presence of God. And if I tried that, it'd be like tripping over myself. What do I do next? I'm not going to do that again. But we've got to find the way that we worship God the easiest, where we can close ourselves in and swim in his presence, allow him to come around us. And it doesn't mean this is the way you worship God. If you're not in this box, you're not doing it. No, everybody has their own box to worship God in. And it doesn't mean it's the same every day. Some days I can be listening to music on YouTube and, yep, let's go do something else now. And I can listen to the same song the next day and just lose it in the presence of God. When I go to sing at seniors' homes, I always enjoy it. But some days it's, I sing the songs, I see the reaction. And some days it's, deep breath. Let's do the next song. Deep breath before the next song. I can just feel God's presence is there. And that's what we need to feel when we're worshiping, to feel God's presence in us and around us and through us. And again, there's no rule about this is how you worship God. Worshiping God is getting in his presence, being surrounded by him, swimming in his presence, being protected by him, having his breath on us. Whatever we do to get closer to him is worship. Like I said, when I walk at nighttime, I can look up to God and up at the sky and just stand there. And that, to me, at that time, is worshiping God. I'm looking up thinking, I just don't understand, God. You're just so big and awesome, I don't understand. That's one way I can worship God. I can worship God when I'm singing. Not every time. Like sometimes when I go to a place to sing, I sing because that's what I'm going there to do. Honest. But sometimes it's just that. I enjoy it. They're enjoying it. We're all having a good time. But sometimes a song just gets to you and think, oh my goodness. And you just don't know what to do. Like I said, Jen can dance. I like to sit and just close myself in. Tina likes to sing and put her hands up. And everybody's got their own way. And we can't look at somebody and say, their hand's not up, they're not worshiping. Give me a break. When people, everybody is different. Just look around. Everybody is different. The way we worship can be different as well. We don't have to fit into a box. What we have to do is fit in a box that God gave us. Fit in that well that God has put us in. And whatever we do within that well, within that box that God gave us, is how we can worship. Last week, people at the back, they were doing all the sandwiches. They could look very easily say, that's why I'm worshiping God today. I'm worshiping God by getting these sandwiches ready. Yes. It doesn't have to be some, look, this is nobody would ever say it. Look at me, how worshipful I am. I'm doing this wonderful thing. No, worship can be getting the sandwiches ready. Worship can be vacuuming the church. Worship can be cleaning the toilets if that's what you have to be doing. Worship can be anything that puts you in that presence swimming with God. You know, sometimes we got to say, well, worship is this. No, well, it can be. But worship can be anything you do that puts you in that presence swimming with God, having him, being in his presence. Now, if you go back to that part about the house, we're a family with the authority of his covenant. When we are worshiping him as the family, we are all within that covenant of worshiping him, no matter what we're doing. I mean, for a long time, I always felt you had to have your hands raised to worship. And I realized, because I never felt totally comfortable all the time doing that. It doesn't mean I'm wrong, somebody else. It just means that wasn't what God was telling me to do. And I have done it. At times I feel like, yes, put your hands up and worship, but most times it's not. We have to learn figure out what God wants us to do, how we need to do it, and not to be thinking, oh, gee, they've got their hands up. I guess I should. And again, sometimes that's how little kids learn. I see them with hands up, well, I'll put my hands up too. This works. You might say, well, that doesn't work for me. But sometimes copying other people and how they worship does work. I know, if Jen tried to dance and I tried to dance with her, it probably wouldn't work out well, but I could say, you know what? I can get into this. I don't know until I try. Try lifting your hands. Try being quiet. Try looking at the sky. Try anything you do to get in God's presence is worship. And I had a few things, sometimes you've got to be in a worshipful mood to worship. Isn't this a wonderful day? Good music. I'm going to worship God now. I got a few ones here where 2 Samuel 12, where David's son was just died. David saw that his servants whispered. David perceived that the child was dead. Therefore David said to his servants, is the child dead? And they said, he's dead. Then David arose from the earth, washed and anointed himself, changed his apparel, came to the house of the Lord, and worshipped. Sometimes that's the most important time to worship, in those hard times. When it's wonderful, it's easy to worship. Church Sunday morning, everybody's here having a good time. It's easy. Those hard times sometimes, yeah. Job. You know the story of Job. Not fun. Job, he just got the news that his house has collapsed, he's lost his kids, lost everything. Job arose, rent his mantle, shaved his head, fell down on the ground, and worshipped and blessed the name of the Lord. I mean, sometimes the hardest times are the most important times to worship God. Yeah, I think we'll leave it at that one. So, remember, worship can be many, many different things. You can worship in good times, you can worship bad times, as long as you're swimming in the presence of God doing it. Amen.
We hope you enjoyed this message. For more information about Center of Hope Victory Church, please visit centerofhopevictory.com.